I was asked last minute to present something related with last mile. I don't know how many of you are OTM experts or hard users, and I want to go through a little bit on what is the last mile when it comes to the OTM world. And it's nothing wrong to say that OTM in certain scenarios for last mile is not the most powerful tool. And the idea is to show what we are considering or what can be done to get things a little bit better. So first question is OTM enough when it comes to last mile logistics? And that depends a lot. Typically, probably most of you have been struggling with last mile, and it is quite a nightmare sometimes to plan and execute last mile when it comes to certain activities, like having rush orders in the last minute, like having dynamic tracking and execution requirements for which OTM needs assistance from external tools, or to deal with last minute changes. Okay, my truck is about to leave, I need to do a bulk plan quickly because I have 10 minutes until the truck leaves. Or have managing routing exceptions. The truck is in the middle of the execution, I need to send it back or change the direction or add a stop or put a new a pickup in the road. Also dealing with fleet availability. Last minute requirements typically demand availability of fleet. If the fleet is not owned, then we can have problems. Dealing with customer satisfaction, on time in full. Oh, where is my cargo? When am I receiving it? There is a traffic jam. I don't know when I will receive my stuff. High volumes, but not high volumes from cubic meters or from weight. High volumes from quantity of packages that have to be loaded and distributed in sometimes several dozens of stops in the way. High capillarity of the network, multiple stops. We are talking here not typically 20 stops, but sometimes 150 stops in one round trip or in one milk run process. And many other situations like follow-up or having bi-directional communication with the driver by asking them to do changes, picking something on the way, adding a stop that was not planned originally. In all these situations, what we see is OTM is good, but it's not enough. So in this case, for instance, if we need dynamic optimization, which is required many times per day, let's say you have to deal with many new plans or many new bulk plans, and you have to have them ready in a couple of minutes because of your business processes, OTM sometimes is not performing as expected and needs some push or some turbocharge. The en route dynamic optimization is also a problem. In OTM, that is something that does not happen. You cannot re-optimize when something is already en route. When you have a high numbers of vans or little vehicles to be optimized across regions, that can also be a problem for OTM dealing with these kind of requirements. When you are asked to have tools required for traffic dynamic route optimization, it's also another thing that OTM is not dealing with, because once the shipment started, you cannot change what is happening there. So if you have a traffic problem, if something like that, in OTM is managed by event, but it's not managed dynamically like if you would be using Google Maps or Uber, and then you can change the stops, add a stop, or do something out of the original planning. Connection with to track all exceptions and subject them to workflows, something that is normally quite difficult and complicated in OTM. Managing cash payments, the mobile application in OTM is good for informing and for sending events, but that's it. We had requests from clients who said, oh, I want to have a cash payment or a cash collection the moment I deliver the stuff. Then we need to think on something different. the use of POD is also possible in the mobile application of OTM, but needs additional stamina in our wording. Many different things that normally can be a problem for OTM to deal with the last mile situation. So what are the options that we are normally considering when we come to this sort of problems? First option is using generic third-party solutions, Transporion, Shipio, etc., which is doing the constant monitoring and tracking, dynamic tracking of the cargo, and sending events based on certain business rules to OTM. But you have still the same problem that you can't change what's going on with that specific shipment. The second thing is some sort of in-house development. We've seen clients, and there are many options, many in the market, that say, okay, I'm going to develop additional functionality to get this done. It's possible, it's something that works sometimes, but typically the total cost of ownership tends to increase. It brings in-house a problem, and whatever you want to do when it comes to upgrading, best practices and so on is not that easy. And the third option is the creating extensions to OTM based on the same sort of technology, like considering those natively integrated with OTM, using REST APIs coming and going, using direct connections, that can include industry best practices as well, that can include upgrades and updates, and that share the same platform with OTM, and then reducing potential technical issues like like time lagging or like disconnection and stuff like that. What we think it's a good companion for OTM is the extensions approach, because it gives the same software as a service concept as OTM, can be natively integrated to OTM, and can expand the power of OTM while keeping the end-to-end consistency. That means it is an extension, it's a satellite solution that works hand by hand with OTM. Can adopt Gen AI and agentic AI as part of the solution scope, and that is something that, well, maybe you heard today, Srini. Agentic AI is booming now. Before that, it was Gen AI, and that is something that can be done if this approach is considered, and can be used also in multiple scenarios. Parceling, postal services, e-commerce distribution, special requirements that include cash on delivery, collection, exchange of products, dynamic tracking and real-time trip modifications, multiple POD, modularity. You can plug and play by putting modules that you may need in those kind of approaches. And the thing is, we did sort of a research, what we call the Christmas shopping list, when it comes to last mile, because those are very typical requirements for that specific transportation or logistics problematic. Most of the clients on the survey, or the targets of the surveys, responded that they want a cloud-based solutions. They don't want to deal with on-premises solutions because of the complexities that brings in the house. They want multi-language. Mostly when we conducted the survey in Europe, multi-language for last mile solutions is a demand. They want one single solution that can be used in Spain, in Portugal, in France, and that can be running in the language of the specific country. They also want the solution to be specialized for a very high capillarity, not the typical up to 50 stops that is considered or managed by OTM, but something much higher, 200 stops or even more in some cases. And they want geo-normalization of the addresses, something that is quite a problem in some locations or in some countries. And they want the tool, or whatever tool is in use, either bring that information directly from OTM, which is doing the geolocalization originally, or by doing itself a refinement of the geolocalization by finding the right address. They want an ultra-fast planning engine, something that in a couple of minutes, less than 1 minute in some cases, can plan 4,000 orders, 5,000 orders, 7,000 orders. They want something that can do automatic route calculation and do optimization on the route calculation. They want something that is real time, that allows real-time follow-up and dynamic tracking and tracing on a Mimic, on a traffic monitoring tool. They want enhanced and detailed mobile applications that can cover not only the assignment of a shipment, but also all the events that happen during that shipment, and that can communicate by that application. They can communicate bidirectionally with the drivers, sending and receiving messages instantly on some cases, or in some cases not instantly, but almost real time. They want multiple POD methods, QR scanning, barcode scanning, a picture, biometrics, whatever. They want native integration with OTM and with OCWMS, with the WMS too, because the orders to be received directly from OTM or from the WMS and be processed or refined in the tool for the last mile operation. The cash on delivery functionalities is something that we have been asked many times. Packets optimization, the moment the load is planned for the vehicles, and bidirectional and scalable platform, starting with a small pilot and then being able to grow without needing to invest too much into an infrastructure. So, based on that, we've been considering tools that can work on 4 different types of scenarios. One is completely standalone, a last mile solution that can work detached or decoupled from any TMS, in this case OTM. Acting as an OTM extension, that means OTM is doing part of the job and the tool is completing that part and maintaining a bidirectional communication with OTM. Using the tool as an OTM mobile replacement by adding functionality to the mobile application of OTM, or replacing entirely OTM when it comes to do the bulk plan. If the bulk plan is not enough or good enough when it comes to performance requirements for planning thousands of orders, very complex in a high capillarity network. This is a quick, further explanation of what I mentioned, but for instance, as a standalone solution, it can perform the internal circuit process, upload of the information, data normalization, geolocation, routing, monitoring, delivery, and it's an ideal scenario for e-commerce with very few TMS specific requirements. So instead of going for a full flavor TMS solution, okay, something we can discuss or recommend is, okay, why don't you think on a standalone solution in this case? But as this is an OTM based process or extension, the idea is to use it as a last mile extension to OTM. So with OTM you can use for T0 and T1 sort of transportation requirements, and then leave the tool to deal with very complex last mile distribution scenarios. Let's imagine an aftermarket producer or aftermarket factory and distributor in Europe with thousands of clients, thousands of locations where they have to send the material. And in those cases, they need to have a very accurate sort of planning process within minutes or within a few hours before the delivery is starting the execution, and with a high complexity of scenarios. This could be for postal and parcel services as well. With OTM, we know that if we want to use parcel services, we need to call an external solution. In this case, this acts as an extension of OTM. It doesn't need to be working with an external partner that is providing these kind of services. It can also be used for retail and very complex distribution networks. And when I'm talking about retail, I'm talking about business to consumer scenarios, where you can plan the final distribution by using a tool like this. Other scenarios are OTM mobile replacement. That means using this tool to give the drivers or to give the actors of the last mile execution a tool which contains additional functionality and that can be configured by adding or removing modules based on the specific requirements. As an OTM bulk plan complement, also it receives the OTM, the orders from OTM, extracts the packages, runs the plan, and returns the data to OTM as new shipments by creating shipment as work or order release related. And OTM can continue with this as a standard process, and it can finish the planning without not the limit, but without this, I would say, performance limitation of 50 stops on one single shipment. When it comes to integrations, what we are considering is that the tool has to have native integrations. It has to have a direct connection with OTM, with Oracle WMS, with Oracle CX, JD Edwards, EBS, any kind of fusion solutions from Oracle. And this is something that is also a must to have. So basically, we have a lot of pieces together in the last mile execution, where in this case you're going to see here maps, because here maps is, in our approach, sort of the core of the routing and planning at a very high speed and with a very high volume of number of orders. And then we have the last mile solution. We have OTM, any ERP, a CRM, an order management system, the mobile application, and the carriers. And what we look for is cover massive distribution needs, stops in excess of to 50 per trip, special POD, turn-by-turn guidance to the drivers and stuff like that. And by putting all the pieces together, the last mile solution is an extension of OTM, but is dealing with the complexity of the last mile part of the execution by utilizing the power of here maps. I'm not selling here maps here. This is the tool we've been using for this proof of concept. So this is an example that we run for a proof of concept in Colombia, in South America, for parcel services for Correos de Colombia. And the idea was that the head office was sending the list of shipments to prepare to the distribution center. The distribution center was preparing and shipping to branches via the utilization of OTM as a planning tool. And the branches were receiving the products, and from the branches to the final distribution to customers, the logistics, the last mile tool was taking control by receiving the shipments and conducting all the final preparation of those shipments until those were delivered to the client, and we got the proof of delivery. As an example, we run this POC in 3 cities in Colombia. Probably the names means nothing for you, but it's Bogota, which is the capital city, Medellin, and Cali, 3 big cities there. And in the situations, we were managing between 4,000 and 8,000 packages to be distributed by the last mile solution, and it takes the last mile solution to plan and to process and plan about between 30 and 45 seconds for 4,000 orders. And it gives all the routing in a lot of detail to the back office and to the mobile application. So, how can we add stamina? Because so far it's a last mile solution based on typical software, rules, development, and so on. But the real power is coming now, because with Gen AI, what we are doing is turbocharging an already known solution by improving the results, adding predictive models that are helping the planning. The moment we are running the planning, or in the last mile solution, we are expecting the tool to make a good use of machine learning processes that can come up with predictive models and can rechange or reshape or not reconsider, but propose different approaches for this specific planning process. We are using actually also the Oracle Digital Assistant with a chatbot that we have enhanced dramatically with a lot of new skills, which work with OTM and can work also with the last mile tool. by in three aspects. The first aspect is as an assistant on a how-to for the end users. The end users simply type something into the chatbot connected to the to OTM or to the last mile tool, and it's a step-by-step guidance that they receive from the assistant. And the next step, we are not fully engaged with this yet, but we are considering the utilization of an improvement of the Gen AI to start using agentic AI at the last miles level by allowing proactive monitoring of the execution of the last mile, and by allowing the utilization of agentic AI for diagnosis and for helping the planners on finding where were the problems, or where there were problems in the execution or in the planning process. Quite similar to what is being done with OTM in the roadmap with the agentic AI that is reading the log files. In this case, what we are reading is real responses from the tool. So, what are the benefits for end users? First of all, increase efficiency. The idea is that we allow, or we can automate repetitive tasks by using Gen AI, and with OTM and last mile processes managed automatically by the tool, by the help of Gen AI. An improved user experience by allowing the tool or the Gen AI to provide natural responses to the users who are asking for specific questions that they cannot find in the documentation, or they do not remember based on their trainings. And time saving on daily tasks. With the agentic AI, what we can do is program certain activities, so the agentic AI take control of that activity and conducts it automatically, and then notify by exception to the user or super user whenever is required. And accessible support 24/7 by having this Gen AI always ready to respond to answers or to questions from the users. And this is the next step. I'm not going to go in very academic here, just explaining what is basically an AI agent, and how we plan to use this for last mile execution. Probably you heard something in the other conferences or presentations about the agent AI. In my few words, this is the next step in the evolution of generative AI. And it's specializing the generative AI to specific tasks, but increasing the capacity of the Gen AI not only to the business rules and to the limited amount of information that is available for a specific activity, but allowing it to go and get information from the environment by using other tools, and by creating or allowing autonomous actions by the agent AI that doesn't need the users to be involved directly. And there are several types of AI agents. In this case, we are talking about not learning agents, but we are talking about model-based reflex agents for the last mile specific execution. And we can range from a single agent, which is specialized in one single activity, into the last mile process or into the OTM processes, and create sort of multi-agent process which can talk to each other. And our ultimate goal is to go through what is called the super power or super agent, super AI agent, which is sort of an agent that is orchestrating the activities of the other specialized or single agents. Why am I telling all of this? Because we can use this AI in logistics and in many different scenarios. We can use it to automate tasks. We can use it to, in this case, monitoring early potential problems. We can have an agentic AI connected with OTM or connected with the last mile solution, monitoring the results or the outcome of what's happening and taking actions if required. It can also be used in WMS. We can have a WMS agentic AI that is detecting potential issues and creating corrective actions in case of anomalies detected. For example, a shortage of a given SKU in WMS could trigger a request to procurement for a replenishment, or to another depot for a replenishment of a given product. Combined with the yard management system, it can anticipate bottlenecks. It can create sort of a traffic organization into the yard management and send instructions directly to drivers or to carriers. And finally, can act as an orchestrator. And that is the example I mentioned before. In the life of a typical logistics planner or user, we can see many ways the Gen AI can be used on a daily basis. This is what we call the shipping concierge. The shipping concierge is the assistant of the users or of the planners, and in these cases can help on the process of selecting a carrier, schedule shipments and pickups, prepare for shipment, hand off, monitor, track and progress, receive shipment, pay invoices, resolve problems, and so on. And in all those cases, there are different areas where we can include Gen AI into our specific activities. And coming back to the logistics process in the last mile, where we see the utilization of Gen AI or different Gen AI types are at the process, at the head office, the list of shipments to prepare. That can be helped by a digital assistant by writing natural instructions to the digital assistant, like I need to send 200 boxes of shoes tomorrow by FedEx to our depot in Boston, taking them from New York. And that is something that we are doing today with OTM, and we can do with the last mile solution. The digital assistant can help also in the distribution center. It can also run predictive models, because you can run a predictive model. Today you can do that with logistics machine learning in OTM. We want to take that as a basis, but enhance it by applying that to logistics network modeling. Meaning that when you are running scenarios in LNM, you can run also predictive models applied to the different scenarios and get sort of a feedback from Gen AI. And agentic AI coordinating different activities that could be necessary to do the preparation of the shipments to the branches. In the branches, the same digital assistant and agentic AI, receiving orders and executing instructions, agentic AI monitoring and taking proactive corrections or proactive notifications. Again, in the branch distribution and connected with the last mile solution, predictive models based on history and based on proper machine learning, it can come and say, okay, the basic route is these 60 stops starting in A and ending in Z, but I recommend in this case to go into this other direction because of predicted traffic jams and whatever. And agentic AI, again, orchestrating activities and taking control when something goes out of the expected threshold. Finally, customer making use of the digital assistant connected with last mile by sending a POD via the digital assistant, writing received in order, or entering into the digital assistant and saying, my shipment 123 didn't arrive properly, posting a picture and so on, and then having back all this way to customer solutions or to whoever is on the other side of the line. And finally, we have both them already. We have the logistics solution, which we call Iris, and we have the Gen AI, which we call Tom the Bot. And we've been presenting Tom the Bot in Oracle Cloud World, in Paris, in Dubai. Now it's being presented in London at the same time. It was presented in Tokyo. And I don't know where else it's going to be presented, but it's quite a nice guy. And it's making a good impression to everyone who wants to see it. And Iris is our last mile solution that works interactively with OTM. Takes in any of the 4 scenarios that I mentioned, Iris can work perfectly. Standalone, mobile application connected to OTM, extension of OTM, or replacing OTM to do bulk plans with the limitations. It cannot do a bulk plan with all the features that you have in OTM, like a 3D load configuration and stuff like that. It's for more basic sort of planning, but it can cope with huge number of stops, huge number of parcels. It can also be used for postal services because it is compliant with UPI standards for the post certificate numbers. And Tom the Bot, we have a quick show running in our booth in the room that today this little fella can work as a user assistant, responding any kind of questions from the users in natural language. You write whatever, and the answer is going to come in very natural language using LLM. We are using large language model that is preparing the answer, and it guides step by step the users on how to do things if the user gets lost on something. The other thing that this chat is doing now is automating tasks. You can write an order like I want to send something from A to B this day, this quantity, and so on, and it automatically creates an order release in OTM once once it has the data that is required to do that. We can also run bulk plans from the bot directly without going into the specific screens of OTM. And now what we are doing is conducting searches and queries. You can write whatever query or search you want in the system, like show me all the shipments that are supposed to arrive tomorrow into Boston and are containing hazardous material. And it's going to bring the list paginated by 5, 10, 20, however you want to see it, with the link where you can click the shipment or the order you want to see, and it opens automatically the screen in OTM, so you can go into the specific object in OTM. And the next step is, that is something that we are considering to do here, is help me because I have a problem with my bulk plan. What we are thinking is something that we are, I would say, in the same page with Oracle in this approach, to have the bot taking a look at the logs and coming with the diagnosis of what failed and coming with something more familiar. And these two together, in the last mile execution, are a very good combination, in our opinion, with OTM, because they are complementing each other and they are giving the end user the possibility to dialogue on a natural way with sometimes hard tool like it can be OTM from a user perspective. And that's it.